Hello, Laziali all over the world. I have two news, a bad one and a good one. The bad one, we lost the derby. The good one is it was probably the useless derby ever. But still, Alison McKenzie, it hurts to me to lose a derby against probably the worst Roma in the last 10, 11 years and lose it like that without fighting, I would say, especially in the second half. That's the thing that annoys me more.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me first of all say I am absolutely staggered that your introduction has not gone straight into blaming this on me for being there. Are you feeling okay today?
Uh, I thought till the last second, should I mention it? Should I not? You know.
Oh, fair enough. You're in a good mood, clearly. Um, yes, no, I agree. It's a frustrating way to end what's been a frustrating season, but in a way, it's kind of it sums things up a little bit as well. It just feels like it's this kind of really deflating end to a season that has really never felt like it's got going, And I guess it's been like that for many teams because of the nature of the season and no crowds and the congested fixture list and all that. But it's felt like a season where Lazio have really failed to gain much momentum, and to go out with a whimper like that in what's supposed to be the biggest remaining game, I don't know, is it even a surprise? I think the only big surprise is how poor a Roma team this is, and Lazio didn't even really put up a fight.
Well, two things. The first one is I thought after beating Borussia Dortmund, we had something going there because we beat one of the best team in Europe. The other thing is we saw it against Parma just a couple of days ago. Lazio was really playing poor football, and I was thinking before, every time Lazio arrive as a favorite in the derby, very often we see this type of performance where it looked to me like it was a friendly match, and I really couldn't understand why a lot of Lazio players were thinking it was a friendly match. As I said, there was pretty much nothing to fight for Lazio, but still, it's a derby. It's always good to win it.
Yeah, the impression I got was that it's more than ever a derby that needs fans, and it just felt like a really poor game of football without that. It made you realise, essentially, this is the sixth and seventh best teams in Serie A playing each other with little left to play for, and that's what it felt like. And normally, that's not what that game would feel like, because the fans wouldn't let them, produce a performance in a game like that. There would be so much more intensity and tempo to the match, just simply as a result of the energy that's coming off the stands. And I think it's the game that's felt where I've it's strange to say because it's been going on for over a year now, but of all the games I've been to behind closed doors, this is definitely the one where the absence of the fans has been felt the most, because it just felt like a training match. And I agree with you, but I mean, I also feel like Lazio actually started the game quite well, and then they may have even just become a bit complacent because they saw they were on top. They saw that Roma weren't up to much. I think they created one chance before their goal. But then the really disappointing thing is just their complete failure to react in the second half. And fair enough if you're going to start the game strongly, and okay, you're not quite at 100%, but you're on top. But then to fail to produce a reaction in a match that they know means so much to so many people is really disappointing.
Yeah, I thought that when Ibanez came off, Lazio match was over. I know a lot of Roma fans love this player. I thought he's terrible. And yeah, in the first, how much did he play? 10, 15 minutes. I thought he was helping Lazio a lot again. And when he came off, suddenly Lazio stopped being dangerous. So maybe that's one of the reasons why. The other thing, I'm not sure that starting Murici in the derby was the right decision, even though at the end I have to say that he didn't play. Probably he played again better than the player that subs him afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, he was, a few inches away from scoring what would have been a really good goal. I was actually surprised because the flag hadn't gone up to begin with when he was sent through. So it wasn't like that finish just came with no pressure when he already knew that it was offside. He went through and he had a player in support, and I was sure he was going to pass it, and it felt like he probably should have passed it, but he chose not to and just smashes the finish in one-on-one. It was really with a little step over as well. I was blown away by that kind of moment of confidence from him almost, because we've not seen enough of that. And in a way, that was kind of encouraging when you see that he is a player who's capable of that kind of confidence. Obviously, it's for nothing in the end, and he's ended up getting subbed off and being criticised as usual. But for sure, I think it was a big blow to lose Caicedo and Correa as starting options before the match, because we didn't really see that coming.
No, and this is an issue, Alistair, that it really affects the team. How many players are we losing for injury the last moment? Caicedo has been pretty much injured all season long. He played on the derby, but we know he wasn't fit. He didn't touch any ball Saturday, I think. And I think there's something wrong there. There's something Inzaghi have to fix. And the other thing is probably Pereira would have been the better solution, knowing that how Lazio's playing and how Roma defense is playing.
Yeah, it just does feel a bit like we've got to the point of the season where, I don't know, Inzaghi's made his mind up about everything. Obviously, the club and Inzaghi haven't made up their mind yet about whether he's staying or not. But I felt like this was really kind of what it was a last chance for Murici. It was kind of saying, and I tweeted something similar before the game, saying, look, he's been really unimpressive all season long. But if he can start the derby and make an impact and score a goal, and it's amazing how quickly things can turn if you can get in that kind of performance at the right time. I mean, let's not forget how bad Caicedo's debut season with Lazio was, how he was scapegoated after that Crotone game for the chances he missed, and he's managed to turn the fans around to become a kind of cult hero almost, to become a really important squad player. So I don't think people should be writing off Murici. You've got quite short-term memory if you are, because of what's happened with Caicedo and other players like even Luis Alberto. I mean, there's been a few players like this over the years, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like there's so much work to do with this squad at the end of the season. And I think that was the kind of takeaway for me from the match, just watching it and the squad depth and the injury problems and everything, and just thinking, wow, there's a lot to do here.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought that the goal that was disallowed of Murici remembers me a lot when Cisse hit the post in the derby. You know, again, that would have been the turning point for Cisse at Lazio, probably. I hope this doesn't go like that, but, you know, that would have changed everything. You know, scoring the winning goal in the derby, it's something that change your season if you're a Lazio or Roma player. So I was hoping that, and now I'm a little bit scared about that. Alazo, the other thing is, again, Reina playing just after Strakosha playing so well against Parma. And again, I didn't like Reina performance. Again, I would say. As you said, we know by now the decision of Inzaghi. There were no surprise seeing the starting 11. But should he, you know, come out and say publicly, well, probably I made the decision to bench Strakosha?
Yeah, and do you not just feel like he's kind of made a complicated situation out of one that wasn't? By which I mean, there are enough uncertainties around this squad and what needs to be fixed already. In terms of the centre-backs, we've got the likes of Hook, Musacchio, presumably moving on, finding a Lucas Leiva successor, sorting out the wing-backs, getting some more depth in midfield, having a new striker. I mean, Strakosha was there as, he's at 25, 26 years old with a lot of Serie A experience and has been Inzaghi's first choice at Lazio. And all of a sudden, now the goalkeeper situation is another one that seems like it will need to be resolved this summer.
Yes. Let's not forget that Strakosha is really important because he's one of the players. We have only two at the moment, only two rise from the Primavera. We need four. If we sell Strakosha, it means that this summer we would need three, and Lazio would be forced to have less than 25 over 22 players in the team. So this is why Strakosha is really important. Not only he's good, but he's one of the few rise from the Primavera. So that's why it's really important for us. Do you expect him to see him starting the last two games of the season? And do you think this will have an impact on him deciding to stay at Rome or leave?
I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens in the last two games now. Well, let's be honest, it won't be really interesting, but I think the selection will tell us quite a lot maybe about where certain players are at. I mean, I don't really see... It's almost kind of pointless now giving Strakosha games. I mean, I still like to see him back in the team because I think he should be the number one. But, how's he going to feel about that? Kind of, okay, we're already guaranteed to finish sixth place, so now you can come and have a run out in these matches that don't matter. I mean, how's it gone from him being literally not missing any games, even in Coppa Italia, to this? I mean, it's a crazy situation. And then what are we going to see? Andreas Pereira, is there much point in playing him if they're going to send him back after a loan to Man United? Or are we going to keep playing the strongest possible, or Inzaghi's first choice 11, even at risk of injuring these guys or making them even tireder? I don't know. Sorry, I need to go.
Well, honestly, I want to see Raul Moro starting tomorrow. I know that Filippo Inzaghi needs Lazio to win, and probably Simone Inzaghi will play the best team available to beat Torino. But if I'm a Lazio fan, if I'm a Lazio manager, it's the perfect opportunity to start Raul Moro, Armini, maybe to bring some of the Primavera players on the bench and giving them a go in the second half. I think Torino has to play tomorrow and has to win or get at 1 point. So it would be perfect to test Raul Moro and see, well, what level is he? Because, as you were saying, playing Pereira, he already played a lot of matches. We don't even know if he's staying. Immobile, do we really need him? He's not fighting for the Capocannonieri. So, I would give this youngster a chance.
Yeah, but I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that in a way, because I would have thought you would be going all guns blazing, wanting Torino to get relegated.
We still can beat them with the Raul Moro, honestly.
Well, this is the thing, is the kind of, I mean, this is probably a discussion for another time, but there aren't, beyond Moro and Armini, there aren't really many Primavera players who are knocking on the door for a first team opportunity. I mean, there's no one who's screaming out to be included beyond those two. You look like you disagree with me.
Well, watching Primavera, there are a couple of players who should be tested. Castigliani, that is 17. Since he switched to the Primavera, he is a very talented player. Sheu, there are other players. Obviously, I'm not saying they should be starting, but they could go on the bench and get tested in the second half. I think these are the perfect. I mean, now in this season where you have nothing to ask, I think that's the perfect moment to test them. Unfortunately, I don't think Inzaghi will ever do it, but that's my opinion.
And, well, yeah, the other thing I wanted to say about this was, well, there were a couple of frustrating things that kind of happened after the game. One of them was Inzaghi being asked about the Champions League race being officially over, mathematically, and saying, oh yeah, but it was done after the Fiorentina game anyway, and we knew that. I think that sends completely the wrong message, and it's kind of depressing to hear that those conversations must have been being had, even if it's kind of subconsciously, I guess. And secondly, Francesco Acerbi, who's come out and apologised and said he was playing with an injury and he should have asked to come off, and he had a bad game, Vittorio. Ended up getting sent off, and now he's got an injury that is apparently even risking his involvement at the Euros. And I just feel like that such a senior player like him, the responsibility should have come from either him or from Inzaghi and the coaching staff to say he's struggling, we need him off. Because he's trying to look after Edin Dzeko. It's not exactly an easy day at the office. And we've got Luis Felipe who can slide in there already. So I just found those two things quite frustrating.
Well, honestly, I don't understand, talking about the defense, why Luis Felipe didn't start. If he's back, why did we play with Marusic there? The other thing is, absolutely, I wanted to talk about Acerbi because I thought he had an awful game. The first goal is simply unacceptable. And the red card for me, it looked to me like a player who wanted to be sent off. That foul was really silly and he played bad all the match long. And this is another thing we will have to discuss probably in the coming weeks, because this year the performance of Acerbi wasn't good. I thought he made a lot of mistakes during the season. We keep talking about Patrick, Radu, and so on, but I thought that Acerbi's season wasn't good at all. And saying that in the derby, I think, doesn't send the right message. And probably it could be the best summer to sell him, because his performances are dropping. And again, you have experience. You know when you're injured or feeling bad, you should immediately ask to probably don't even start. It happened the same thing already twice, if I recall right. Last year when Vavro started against Genoa, he was injured. He tried to warm up and didn't finish the warm up. And then this year again, if I'm not wrong, he did it. So, it looks to me that Acerbi is more thinking about playing every single match and be, the record man for matches played, instead of thinking really about the team and the positive things for the team.
Well, I don't know about that. I think it's a big part of his story, and it's an amazing story how he's come back from cancer to have this playing career, and to have been through everything he's been to get to this level, and to have the incredible consistency of performance that he has done. And it's really uplifting, and it's part of the reason that we love him as fans. But yeah, there is another side to that. It can't always be about Acerbi's story and Acerbi's consistency, because the reality is time stops for no man. So he is getting older every year, and it is going to become harder and harder for him to have that level of consistency. And especially in a season like this where we've had games every 3 days, you got to look after yourself. And like you say, I think it just becomes damaging for the team. And it seems like at times in the past, Inzaghi has been too easily swayed by it, where he's kind of suggested, well, Acerbi wants to play every game, so he plays, and it is what it is. And I've talked, I guess, before about the positives and negatives of Inzaghi basically being friends with his players and having that kind of relationship and that kind of trust with them, which is part of the reason that he gets the best out of a lot of these guys. But there has to be a balance there, and I feel like that was a big oversight in a match like this.
Yeah, and against Parma, Luis Alberto wasn't fit, and he played pretty much all the match. Caicedo, we know he has a problem, and you put him in. I don't know why. If he's injured, why do you play Caicedo? Try other solutions. I fear that we arrive at a point of the year where Inzaghi trusts his players, even though if they are not fit, which is, for me, completely wrong. I mean, instead of playing Caicedo that didn't touch a ball, it was like if Lazio was down 9 men with Caicedo playing. Bring someone else. Give a chance to someone else. Why Luis Alberto, if he has problem, have to start against Parma? Why start Acerbi if he's not fit? I can understand that you say Acerbi is better than I don't know Patrick, but if Patrick is fit and Acerbi is injured, then it's definitely better Patrick than Acerbi. Instead, for Inzaghi, it's the opposite, and this is something I don't understand.
Well, I think it comes back to the same thing, doesn't it? It's just the question of trust, and that's always been the issue: is that Inzaghi doesn't feel like he can trust his kind of B team players. And that was, that was something we already knew before the season even started, because when it came to the post-lockdown period last season, where we had that ridiculous run of matches, we were getting so frustrated about the fact that Inzaghi kept picking the same team, despite the fact that it wasn't because they were the only ones fit. There were injury problems, but he just picked them because he wanted to. There were other options to play. They were just options that he didn't trust. And they had a summer to sort that out, failed to sort it out with the new signings who have come in. And we finished this season in the same position, really, where, I mean, the answer to the question of why does Luis Felipe not come straight back into the team, it's because, well, it feels like Marasic has earned his place there now. So forget what's happened before. And Senad Lulic is a senator. He's not moving. And it's all quite predictable, really. But I don't think there's any answer to this question, really, without just increasing the quality of the squad overall. But that is going to require an enormous overhaul, really.
Yeah, and this is very important. I think this summer is going to be very important for Lazio because we have to fill some gaps, and we have very old players that need to be replaced. Lulic has been struggling since he came back. Rado, we know he cannot play twice a week. I would put in the mix even Acerbi because this season he really struggled. Leva needs someone who can give him a little bit of rest. Caicedo is 33, I think, this year. Immobile is turning 30. So, this is one of the oldest roster in Serie A. So, and I don't know how many Primavera players would be ready to play next year in the first squad. So, there's a lot of things to do for Tare this summer.
Yeah, and a couple of players you mentioned there, it's like, this is the point. Players like Ciro, who's 31, and Acerbi, who's 33, I think. Those are actually the players that, if you're a well-organised club, you should be thinking about bringing in fresh blood to replace them over the next few years. What we've instead got is a situation where there are players who are 2 or 3 years older than that who we need to replace, and we don't even have time to get round to that next kind of batch of players who still are, we can't expect to be, doing the same thing every single season. So it's not just that there's the Stefan Radus and Senad Lulics of this world, it's that there's a second batch beyond that who are at the kind of wrong stage of their career. So everywhere really you look, I agree. I think Acerbi, we've seen a bit of a decline from him, unfortunately, this season. Doesn't mean that he'll keep declining, but we can't expect him to, to be at the level of his first season every single season. So, I mean, yeah, it's a huge job, and in that sense, again, I think that kind of comes back to us saying about the Primavera, is that this would be a time where you rely on that you're generating those players yourself, and that's I don't think it is happening to that level. Maybe Moro and Armini will have something to offer, but I can't see us bringing through a Bastoni who's kind of gone straight into a title-winning Inter team after one season. And
yes, but that's a different type of player, right? Bastoni, Inter bought him. He didn't come from the Primavera, so it's a little bit like Zaniolo as well. They bought him up from another club. So
yeah, but we bought Moro from another club. But
but he was 16. He wasn't 18 and ready for Serie A. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. And this comes back to Alistair. The last two transfer market of Lazio have been a disaster. Even my dog is complaining about that. So and this is the result, right? You sign like 8 players, and only Lazzari starting of those 8. 4 or 5 are out of the squad already, and the others like Fares, Hurt, Pereira, etc., are not starters and hardly starting. So this tells you that 2 years of failure on the transfer market, this is what you get. And now this summer, you have to, I think, do a lot of changes because, as you said, you should be thinking about replacing Immobile and Acerbi, but you have to replace other players before. So, yeah, it's going to be very complicated summer with, I don't think, a lot of money.
Well, yeah, this is it too. And it sounds like there's a chance that new regulations are going to be put in place as well in order to actually control spending that clubs can make, even if they wanted to. I mean, you've got a coach whose future is uncertain, even a sporting director whose future is uncertain. We've got a team of aging players. We've got a team that every single position, goalkeeper, defence, midfield, attack, needs refreshment. I mean, I just, and this is during a summer where teams are crippled financially from the pandemic, and there's the European Championships going on, which is going to kind of shorten the window where it's going to be easy to make negotiations for players and so on. I mean, I'm not surprised to see Lazio getting linked with quite a few free agents. I saw Danilo D'Ambrosio today, and there's been a few of these kind of stories going around. I'm not surprised, but I hope that if those kind of players and those kind of signings come in, it's balanced with, because for me that's kind of bulk that bulks up the squad. It's not necessarily the stardust that you need to actually improve a squad.
Yeah, but I would love to be linked to players under 30 years old, please.
Well, that too. I mean, when I saw we were linked with Simi as well, and I think Simi's a really dangerous player and has done very, very well this season. But do we really, if we're replacing Murici, do we really want to replace him with someone who's 3 years older than him? I mean,
yeah.
The names are going to be endless, so I don't necessarily know how seriously to take it, but it doesn't look like we're being linked with all that many young players.
Yeah, and the problem is people think, first year in Serie A, he must be, 21, etc. He's 29, so, it's not what we were looking for. Probably be a better solution than Murici, be easier to adapt him because he played Serie A, he has been successful, etc. But do you go and play and buy a player whose first year in Serie A when he is 29? So I don't think so. I mean, it wouldn't be the right solution, especially long-term solution. It just would be postponing one of the problems for a couple of years, probably. So yeah, I would love to be linked to youngsters, but youngsters are expensive. We know Lazio usually doesn't spend that much money, so this is why we've been linked to this type of players.
Yeah, and young players are expensive. And that's what it might come down to. It's the reason that Lazio are being linked with players who are free agents or who play for relegated teams is that they'll be able to get them in for less money. And look, I'm not necessarily against that if it means that they're going to be able to get in quite a few players, but I think you want, like I say, you want a balance where.
Yep.
You want players to energize and infuse this team a bit. Because for the players who've been there this whole time as well, your Milinkovic, Savic, Immobile, Alberto, they want to see that as well to keep this project moving. It's going to be hard to say after this season, unless they do something in the transfer market, it's going to be harder to say to everyone like, oh yeah, this is still where you're going to progress your career. This is where we're going to do this, that, because they've had 1 year in the Champions League, but now they're back out of it again. And some of these players might be thinking, well, especially Milinkovic, Savic. I think by this stage, most Lazio fans would say fair enough if he wanted to leave because he's been so loyal for so long and has helped his club achieve everything it has in the last few years. But I mean, you probably wouldn't begrudge him the temptation to look around at other options.
Yep. Well, this will be a discussion for another day, Alistair. There's Lazio Torino playing on Tuesday. As we said, Lazio has nothing to play for, but Torino need at least 1 point in the last 2 matches. So, Lazio has the big chance to send to Serie B Torino. We know how Cairo and Lotito are big friends. And the Benevento team that is fighting for relegation against Torino, the manager is Filippo Inzaghi. So I believe that Simone Inzaghi will play the best team against Torino just to help his brother, right?
Yeah, exactly. And would at least make that an interesting final day game when they play Benevento. So, no, I do expect actually that they'll put out a pretty strong team. I can't imagine it's going to be very experimental on Tuesday. And yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to finish the season strongly and not just let it completely fizzle out, because the derby was, a big dampener for us.
Yeah, again, I hope Raul Moro starts and maybe Armini comes in the second half, but I don't see it happening. Alistair, we have to wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for listening. Remember, we are on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, YouTube. You can support the channel on Patreon, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge, and we'll be back Wednesday afternoon to talk about what happened in Lazio Torino. Thank you, Alistair.
Cheers.
Ciao, ciao.